An hour and a half with me and Andy is what you have to look forward on this our third conversation, recording in the beginning of January. And we spend a lot of time speaking about the gift economy, even though we start in trademarks and the story of Sarah Santacroce that I had listened to in Andy's podcast, the Gentle Rebel podcast, an episode I highly recommend. And there is something like, there's something shifting in me when it comes to this. There is um, an awareness that I want to hoard less and I want to flow more. And if that sounds really, really weird after these 1.5 hours, I think you'll get what I mean. Or at least I hope you do. So enjoy.
Oh, how are you?
I'm good. I'm
Good.
good. It's been lovely. I've had a couple of lovely weeks of sort of mostly just being with myself.
hmm
Which has been, you know, the kind of honoring the darkest time of the year in that sense of really wintering, of not really being very active, not being out there,
Yeah,
but rather in here. Um, So
nice.
I've had a good couple of weeks. What about you?
Good. Yeah, I've had a lovely couple of weeks. It's been probably similar in sort of honoring the beingness and just I've just been sort of following what feels like the right thing to do. So I was visiting my parents over Christmas and spending time with various family members and nephews and yeah, just kind of surrendering to presence, I think, was the spirit that I took into it. Which yeah, I didn't really have any expectations um, or demands on myself before I went there, and so didn't do any. I guess the only thing I was thinking was I'll be able to keep up with like emails and things like that while I'm there, and I just ended up, other than really urgent kind of fire style emails, I didn't do anything around that. So yeah, that felt pretty good. And then just getting to the new year with a spirit and an energy of I'm just going to ease my way into this. I think often I'll have there's something quite sort of definitive about that wall between the 31st of December and the 1st of January, and it's like suddenly everything shifts. But I was like, actually, I'm going to take a bit of a, like the whole season of Christmas is, it starts on the 25th of December, finishes on the 6th of January or whatever. So I'm going to use that as more of a kind of transitional thing into the new year. So that's been feeling pretty good. Yeah. So it's being present, a nice bit of flow, I think. Yeah.
I listened to your podcast yesterday or the day before, the episode with Sarah Santacroce.
Oh yeah.
And it was fun because I saw her name and I thought, oh, I know a Sarah Santacroce. Turns out it was the one that you knew or
Oh
knows.
wow. Small world. Yeah.
Small world, because I don't know, 10 years ago, I did some type of women's empowerment business kind of big mastermind type course. And Sarah was one of the teachers there coming here to speak to us about LinkedIn and this, that, and the other thing.
Right. Okay.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
She's
that
had
was
quite a
fun.
year. Yeah.
Definitely quite a year. Um, so I enjoyed listening to that. Um, also because it kind of the just to I can recap it, and then you can say if I kind of got it
Yeah,
or
great.
not, right? It's like, so Sarah had a thing, gentle marketing, that she kind of has been pushing and launching and writing a book about it, and this, that, and the other thing, and then got a cease and desist letter from somebody in the US saying that, sorry, but this is my trademark. So she had to really let go.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when you let go is that there is an opportunity for let come. And so her humane marketing came instead then, and kind of that journey is what you speak about in the pod, which is called what? The Gentle Rebel podcast?
That's right. Yep.
Yep. And it was an I have to say, I pick up on the fact that neither you nor she really enjoys the competitiveness that is the culture of the business of business.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably shouldn't say this from that standpoint, but from the one that I'm in, I will say it. I've been wondering about this aspect of trademarking things, and kind of trying to protect your thing. I have an issue with patents, and I've had an issue with patents for years. It's like
Yeah.
I don't like the concept of it. The very concept, the very notion that I have to protect my stuff. It's like I don't like to have to lock, the door or my bike, because
Mm-hmm.
it's mine. Everybody else knows it's not theirs, right? But
Yeah.
so I have been pondering that aspect. Should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? And haven't ever really gotten to a place where I've seen the value of it. But that conversation that you and Sarah had is the first one that's actually gotten me to seriously consider that trademark might be a way to protect me from others doing that type of culture where it's grab and run
Yeah.
kind of culture. And I don't have to use it that way, but I can, if I were to trademark Tankespjärn, that would perhaps protect me from that. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to use it that way, because I love when people use the word Tankespjärn. That's
Yeah.
what I want. I want everybody to start to use it. So you gave me some Tankespjärn in this episode, and I'm thinking I'll ask Caspian to listen to it too, because we've been discussing trademark, and I haven't really been
Right.
able to verbalize any reason for why, but you kind of do.
Mm. Yeah, that was a real Tankespjärn moment for me as well. Just almost, yeah, hearing the way, because Sarah talks through her journey through this last year, and that very much a similar belief of not wanting to kind of go down that line of trademarking and be patenting and all of that stuff, but then realizing that actually there's value in it, in the protection, as you say, in the fact that I don't want to go through what I've been through again. And then when you're in that position, you can choose how to use that trademark, and you can choose to be, as we've talked about before, that expansive and connecting and, open with that. But you're also not at risk of somebody coming along and, because I mean, this person had literally just trademarked it at the beginning of this year or last year. And then, I don't know how it all went for her in the kind of processing and thinking of it, but I could, in my head, it's just like, right, I'm going to trademark that, and then I'm going to go and shut down these other people who are using this term. And that's a part of my strategy to, I don't know, monopolize that space. And it's like, you can choose not to do that. But yeah, it's kind of interesting thinking of it. Yeah. Almost from a an offensive versus defensive perspective, and actually from that defensive perspective, you can keep the term free so that it can be used in the way that we would want to use it. Because I mean, for me, it was the irony of the kind of gentle aspect of it, the gentle marketing, gentle business.
Yeah.
Just like the
Just
values.
not.
Just yeah,
not.
Exactly. There's no integration there between the values and the behavior. So, but yeah, no, it was a Tankespjärn for me too.
Yeah. And it's like I think this is one of the aspects where I kind of I don't want to say struggle, but it doesn't flow smoothly. Let's put it that way. There's like blockages and it is this aspect of me that I deliberately and happily call myself naive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's intentional. I want to think the best of everybody, period. And I do, and I don't. And yes, it bites me in the bum now and again and, knocks me over. But I'd rather do that than kind of garb myself in protection against.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, yeah, it's not it's not necessarily it's like this is the first thing that's actually gotten me to at least consider doing that.
Yeah.
But
I'm the same.
it's
Yeah, I'm the same. Like
it's like
yeah.
I really don't want to, because I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to.
Yeah. I think, and that's what it is for me as well. It's like, and I think while I use terms like, gentle rebel in a lot of stuff that I do, I think I also hold very lightly to it, so that if that sort of situation did arise, I'd be like, okay, if that's how you want to play it, knock yourself out. But yeah, it's but no, I'm the same. Like, there's still something about it that just feels like, why should, like, who's behaving in that way? Like, yeah.
And I can't say that I hold Tankespjärn that lightly, because it's a unique
It's
word.
different, isn't it? Yeah.
It is a unique word, and I don't know if the one thing that I have that would protect it, or me in that sense, is the fact that if you historical use,
Yeah.
it's mine, to 95%, because as I say, there's other people using the word, which I want. But so far, there's nobody, dubbing their business Tankespjärn, or, kind of claiming the rights to the word or the phrase.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose it's almost there's a crossover with like creative work in that sense, and almost the sort of default, absolutely, I know nothing about copyright law or anything to do with any of this stuff. But like the fact that, within my music, like, things are copyrighted by default to some degree,
Default,
by
yes.
historical use. Yeah. And that's another, it's another area I've long kind of battled around with these sorts of thoughts. I used to like allow, well, I mean, I still do, Creative Commons use of my work. And I'm a big believer in that. And like the protection around stuff is useful for its conception and creation. If you're like, I think that's where I almost kind of have a belief in protectionism with in relation to innovation and creativity, while it enables the thing to actually be created and come to life. But then it's like, yeah, I don't know how that fits with music, because obviously, yeah, no, I don't know. It's a weird one.
It is a weird one. And again, it's like we are created in relation with others.
Yeah.
That's how I come to be. And the same kind of goes with everything else. It's like there's this constant flux. What I read, what I listen to, who I speak to, what I eat, everything impacts me, influences me.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that colors, flavors, tints what I put out,
Yeah.
right? So music is one of those things. I it's like I I get it and I don't get it. So it's the same for me
Mm.
here cuz you know, it's kind of fun to you h- it's like it's notes, it's tones. How can you copyright a tone? That's like copyrighting the DNA of a plant, of a mouse, of a whatever. It's like it actually has been done, but it feels so fucking weird. And
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
how can somebody else claim to own that thing?
Mm-hmm.
And you listen to music, and my choir conductor, he composes a lot of music for us. And it's, oh, there's a chord that reminds me of Sound of Music, or here's some ABBA. It's like, and I know in music there's this, it can be what, 4 bars of similarity, but can't be
Mm.
more than that. Yet there's some like, there's a, because I think that's it. There's a degree of, yes, inspiration is allowed,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
can't copy paste 2 long pieces. It's kind of like, if I'm writing an essay, if I copy paste the answers from Wikipedia, or, it's like, it's obviously not my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I suppose it's how you're then using it, and how you're benefiting or gaining from your use of the thing. And I think that's where I really love the Creative Commons
yeah.
kind of idea, where um so I will give people, I kind of have private arrangements with people to be able to use my music and stuff for things, but then the line stops if you're selling it. You can't sell it and sell it off as your own, and also when you're using it within the context of maybe something that you are profiting from. So okay, let's work out how to, let's come to an arrangement where, because I need to get paid because of the, the world we live in. And so it's working out, yeah, the flow of compensation within all of that, without it being this belief that the thing that I created in complete isolation, without any inspiration from anywhere else, and it's almost believing that those brick walls are there, nothing's coming in, and I've just created some genius in isolation. And
Mm.
that's just not how things
How it
work. So
goes.
yeah, I mean, it's a very complex web, isn't it? Yeah,
And
to
you
explore.
throw in here the gift economy, the market economy, and the gift economy. Me, Inman, and Matthew have been speaking about the gift economy, and in the creative community I'm a part of, where they are also a part of, the gift economy has been an ongoing exploration, something that we've been, people have been writing about it, thinking about it, talking about it. And it is just this flow.
Mm.
I wonder if it was, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was Braiding Sweetgrass. I just started reading the book by Robin Wall Kimmerer.
Right.
And she speaks in the beginning, because I'm 30 pages in, about Indian gifts, which is kind of a derogatory term, sort of sprung from the US, where the Native Americans would give something to the settlers, 400 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the settlers would revere it as a gift coming from the culture of, you have given me this thing. I need to honor it and I need to care for it. And I can't give it away to somebody else. I need to, I need to care for it, kind of in that contained sense. Whereas for the Native American, for the indigenous people, it is a flow.
Mm-hmm.
I give the gift so that you can give it back to me when I need it.
Yeah.
Right? Which is this interesting thing about my bike. It's like, I need the bike when I need a bike, but I actually don't need to own my bike. If there were bikes around, I could take one when I need it, and then I'd put it down, and then somebody else would take that one, and I would come out, and there would be another one there. It's like, that, in essence, is the gift economy. It's like, resources will flow.
Yeah.
It will come to you when you need it. And it is such an, how can you ease into that? Can you jump? Do you need to just dive into it? It's like, because there are bills to pay, and if I don't pay them, electricity will be gone. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
It's a leap of faith. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
But I think, talking about that flow, it's just it is that letting go, isn't it? And I love that phrase, letting go to let come. And I think there's a real truth within that, in that context. And because I think gifts, we so often, gifts are not truly gifts. They're conditional. We attach conditions
And then
to
they
them.
are not gifts.
And they're not gifts by definition. Yeah.
Mm.
Even so, like it was a while, maybe about a year ago, I was reading someone on Twitter was talking about an experience that they'd had, giving a homeless guy some money for food. I think, or no, he got him some food, without asking whether he wanted food. I think, or maybe the guy had asked for food, and so this guy had gone to a shop and bought a load of food, and then come back and brought it to him. And then he said, and then the guy took the food, stood up, and took it back to the shop, and like either asked for the money or whatever.
Yeah.
But the person telling the story said he didn't. He was watching from afar as this guy was going and doing this, and he didn't stick around to see if he got his money back and everything like that. And it got me really thinking about the idea of gifts and the idea of, okay, at what stage in that, because he attached so many conditions to it, not least, I'm going to go and get food that I believe you should have.
Yeah.
So there's no sense of like, when he looks in the bag, I can't eat any of that. Like, I've got allergies, or like, I don't like that stuff. Like, this wouldn't be what I'd choose. Like, if I came with you to select my food. And also just this idea of, I know, like, the power dynamic of that situation is like, I know what's best for this person. I'm going to give them a gift, but it's got all these conditions attached to it. And the moment, even after I've given the gift, I still have an entitlement to the way that is used. So, like, I guess a true gift would be, I'll give you this thing. If you want to go and get the money in exchange for, like, it's yours. Like, you can do literally whatever you want with it. Like, that is surely a gift. Whereas, it was just quite interesting to see. So he was using Twitter in the way some people do for validation of his own sort of outrage at this situation. And to get people
Can you believe in our
Yeah,
review. He took
exactly.
the gift I gave him and he returned it to get money so that he could
Yeah.
buy booze. You know, whatever,
And that's,
maybe.
and well, and beneath in the comments, that is, it sort of, it descended into that exact
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
And like this, yeah, almost like a, a railing against homeless people, like, isn't it typical, like, and this whole then homogenizing homeless people as a group, and like all of this stuff that's just like, oh, this is, you've kind of undermined probably everything that went into maybe any thought that you had, well, as you gave that gift of like, I'm going to do something good for
Good.
somebody in need. And it's like, actually, what you've ended up doing through the whole of this process that's ended on Twitter is probably meaning that people are going to look down their noses at the people that
Even
you,
more.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it was actually Seth Godin in a blog post just a month or two ago that kind of pointed out, or maybe it was an Akimbo episode, um, where he pointed out this fact that if there are any strings attached to a gift, it is not a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is truly a gift, and I say, here, I want you to have these scissors, and you don't need scissors, and you say, thanks, but no thanks. That is part of this being a gift. It is that you can say thanks, but no thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to explain that you already have 10 scissors or you don't like the color of that scissor. Or, it's like, then that, and me not taking offense, not being, it's like, am I bad because I gave you the wrong type of, it's like
Yeah.
clean. It needs to be clean. And it's like, how many gifts do I give that are actually that clean? Oh, it's like, ooh.
It's
Because you kind of
really
want them
interesting to
to
think
be,
about it. Yeah.
appreciated and reflecting back that, oh, she's such a lovely person. She gave me this thing. It's like, it's hard to not have strings attached.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you put it that way, it's like the vulnerability of truly giving a gift is huge, because you've like within the giving of the gift is the possibility of that rejection, and within the context of that rejection is, I've got to accept that rejection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to something recently talking about gifts around what was it, the Fundamentalists podcast. They were talking about the three types of gift, and one of them was the gift that has to be given in order to be rejected, which is the gift such as an apology. So you sort of do someone a wrong or whatever, and you say, I'm really sorry about that, and they say, oh, it's okay, you don't need to apologize. And so that gift of the apology has has to be given in order to be rejected. Otherwise, the person receiving it and rejecting it will still feel like they are owed that, or that like that's a needed interaction that has to come. Because it wouldn't be any good if that person then said, "Okay, I'm not sorry." That then, you can't take that back. So yeah, that sort of left me pondering a lot of how much of our interactions are like that, like the gift that needs to be given in order to be rejected. And it's a really fascinating
Mm.
idea.
And I think apologies are especially tricky, because if you have done me wrong and you then come and say, I'm sorry, you and everybody around you expects me to say, it's fine. And when I don't, because maybe the wrong you did was one that I won't accept that apology.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm the bad guy. Because I'm making you stay in this state of where you're sorry, but you can't unload the sorry onto me and be given absolution.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's tricky. And it's tricky also because it's so ingrained in at least how we raised kids. Say you're sorry, say you're sorry, say you're sorry. You
Sorry. Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, precisely. It's like, and it's said without.
Yeah. It's just the surface.
It's surface level. So it's like, it's really, really interesting, this thing about sorry or apologies.
Yeah, I suppose there has to, within that interaction of, I'm sorry, oh, you don't have to say you're sorry. There's something that goes on between the lines there that clears the, I don't know, slate or whatever. Because, I mean, so often we see that, but the resentment is still harbored, where it's like, oh, you don't know, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, and actually they carry on holding on to the thing. And so you then see later on, it will come out in a conversation or in an argument. And it's like, well, I've apologized for that. I thought you'd accepted. And it's like, then I suppose the gift within all of that is truly that slate has to be cleaned. And what does that look like? Forgiveness, because the whole thing of forgive and forget, it's like, well, that doesn't sit right. Like, forgiveness is not forgetting, but it's holding on differently. It's letting go of the thing. And that means not using that thing in the future as a weapon.
Precisely.
But it's not forgetting it. It's using, that's a...
Michael Neal says something else about that, Supercoach Academy. He says, if you are to forgive, you need to forget. You need to make as if that didn't happen so that you cannot weaponize it and use it again and again and again.
But then is it possible to truly forget?
Precisely. So that's when I've actually written a piece about that, because it's like, oh, I don't know. There's something in me that says I'm not sure about that one.
Because the risk there is you suppress it, and actually it comes back even worse. If you're like, right, I'm going to deliberately forget something, the only way you can do that is to just push it down. So that, I think I like letting go. I think you can let go without forgetting, and you can remember something within that is more important than holding on to remembering the wrongdoing.
And maybe if you let it go, over time it will be forgotten, kind of as a natural process, rather than as an enforced, pushing down, but rather an erosion of sorts. It's like, okay, it doesn't exist anymore because I truly don't remember. It's in the past, and it's if it's not something that I cling to, a story I tell, reinforcing, there can be forgetting over time.
And forgetting might be a byproduct of just focusing on what is more important than the resentment or than the holding on to the thing. So it's like, within a context of a relationship, it's like, well, why is it important to me that we go through this forgiveness process? And just remembering the connecting part. And every time you come, maybe because forgiveness, and that can take a hell of a long time to go through. And every time you're sort of moving through that emotion, just to come back to that point of like, well, why is this relationship worth it to me? And it might not be. It might be forget the relationship, like move on, and that's fine, we're done. But if not, why is it worth it to me? And every time that resentment sort of bubbles up, rather than like, oh no, I'm supposed to have forgotten about that, to say, okay, well, why is this worth it? I think that feels like a more expansive and healthy approach.
Yeah. In general, I mean, we do get more of what we focus on.
Yeah.
But there was another thing that I was thinking when we were speaking about the gift and the homeless man who got the gift of or who actually didn't get the gift, he got the
Yes, exactly.
conditioned food.
And we don't know how it ended either, so because the guy walked away.
And it's like this aspect of yes and no has been with me for the last couple of years of can I actually honor myself enough to say yes when I'm a yes and no when I'm a no? And all of the it's like a battlefield around these two concepts, because I can say yes when I'm a no and no when I'm a yes. And somehow harm myself and others more when it's done that way than I think I can if I say yes when I'm a yes and no when I'm a no, because then there's something that's in alignment, even though this might be me saying no to the gift that you're offering me. So if we are better able to sit with my own yeses and nos and honor my own yeses and nos, I'm guessing, I'm hoping, I'm wishing that would mean that if I offer you these scissors and you say, don't want them, that I can pick up that this is a no from you because you're a no. It doesn't have anything to do with me. It's not because you don't like me. It's not because this, that, or the other thing. It's just, you don't need scissors right now. It's like, no. For whatever reason you don't need these scissors or want these scissors. It's like, but if I can kind of let that be your no without it being perceived by me as a stab in the back or a punch in the face or whatever. And that's tricky,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I suppose in some contexts as well, or in some situations, that the gift of allowing somebody to be able to be honest in their answer is a real gift. Like, so if somebody feels like they are able to say no to the scissors as you reach out to give them to them, like actually you've done something, like probably between the lines somewhere in who you are, that gives them that freedom and that permission to be able to reject it and to say, actually, no, I don't need them, thank you. And maybe that's the the point you can sort of then focus on, of like, oh wow, like there's something about me that's given that permission. Whereas, because a lot of the time people might just take a gift, I've done it many times, just taking a gift because it's easier to take it and then throw it away later than it is to say, actually, honestly, I don't need that. Like, give it to someone who needs it. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting to talk about this right after Christmas, where there's a lot of called gifts, Christmas presents, and is there a difference between present and gift? Is there, it's like, but it is interesting to link it to this gift economy concept of what do I actually need, and how much do I need, and if I never hoard but rather if you give me, 10 hams and I don't need more than one ham and I give the other 9 away. It's like, wow, that's flow. That is
Hmm.
resources finding their way to people who need them, because then, maybe I give 2 to my neighbor who then will give 1 to her neighbor. And it's like, so there is this movement implied that if I look around, there's a lot of non-movement. There's a
Yeah.
lot of hoarding. There's a lot of, putting under lock and key, protecting it
Hmm.
from others who might need it. But heck, others need it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like arrange the flow to come to me, and then it stops with me.
Stops.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really like the, it's a really interesting thing to kind of think about and talk about, because it often, the reasoning, and I think this is why the word like faith and leap of faith like is so important here, because we can often come to the logical reasoning of, well, if you just take the one ham and give the rest of the hams away, then that will stimulate this whole gift economy that will then mean that you'll get hams when you need hams in the future. And it's like that then removes the gift, like the fact that you're thinking, I will do this so that when
So
I'm in need,
that,
I'll get the thing. And actually that just turns into a different type of kind of transactional economy, a normal kind of financial, but maybe not financial. It's just, you've sort of swapped money for something else kind of economy. And actually it requires you to stop at that point where it's like, no, I'll give those hams away because I don't need them. And that's it. Like, I don't know if I will be okay in the future. I have the faith that I will, but I'm not doing this in order that I get something back from whoever, because that diminishes the gift as a definition. So I suppose in that respect, because I've not really looked into the gift economy kind of concept very much, but I wonder if, does that sort of do you get a bit stuck on that, or is?
I don't know. Because I haven't looked into it enough either, I think.
Mm,
But I also kind of think that there's the difference. It's like you say, the leap of faith here is that, like, we live in a world of abundance. We live in a world where either everybody thrives or everybody starves. That's what it's like for any other group of animals or plants for that matter. If there's a drought, all of the plants will suffer together.
yeah.
Um, and so there's that trust, I think is the word there, right? There's the trust that we will together, uh, either survive or die,
Mm-hmm.
either thrive or die. But so I think that's the aspect of it that I at least want to see in it.
Yeah.
Whereas this other thing, I'm giving because then I know I will get, is maybe that's a transitional step,
Mm-hmm.
but and it has kind of, there's the paid forward. You can kind of raise it up to karma level, paid forward. I can pay it forward knowing that somehow this will benefit me, but I don't know how. I don't know. when, and I don't need to know, but I want to do this. And is this the thing? Not because it will benefit me, but because I want to do this.
Mm.
Um, and then kind of still knowing that it will come back to me somehow, because either we will thrive and survive or we will die together.
Mm. You hit on a really important point about the together thing, because I think, yeah, it's easy to get stuck still in that sort of the treadmill of the individual and of us as single conduits of whatever it is that's flowing through us, as opposed to actually coming together. There's a lateral flow. The flow is not just one or two directions. It's like it's an absorption of all of the water around us together. And it's kind of like we're all in the same body of water, as opposed to the water comes through me, I give it to whoever. And actually that's, yeah, as long as you're dealing with the particular, the individual, I think you're always going to come back to an economy in that respect, in terms of thinking, okay, I personally am choosing to do this with the resources I have in my possession, personal possession. I will give it on because I will get something back or whatever. Whereas, yeah, there's something about that together, that collective consciousness, that awareness of being a part of something broader, that, yeah, that's really, really interesting. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know, but I know how it feels. It's a
So how
different
does
kind
it
of flow.
feel? How does it feel?
It feels like there's a safety to it and a surrender to not having to. I guess it, just to come back to that sort of that the guy with the homeless person, where you would just surrender whatever it is, whatever resources you have, like to that thing, like to that moment, to that situation, and you wouldn't have the burden of condition on your own expectation for how somebody should use what it is that you've passed forward or given on. And I think it's that sense of, because I guess when we put conditions on things, we wouldn't think of it consciously as an entitlement to the behavior of the other person. We wouldn't think I'm going to control. I want to be in control of what they do with the thing that I've given them. But that it does become some sort of stress or burden for ourselves, where we hold on to that resentment, because obviously that guy he was harboring that real sense of being wronged by the fact that this person had not used his gift in the way that he wanted it to be used. So, yeah, I think it's the feeling of that broader thing is you can let go of worrying about how other people are using your stuff, or not using your stuff, but using the things that flow around you.
The resources available.
And it probably then will change, to think again back to Sarah Santacroce's journey through last year, and the idea that somebody could hoard words, hoard a phrase, hoard a term, and say, nobody else can use this. Like, and the opposite of that, as kind of discussed with Sarah, was just this idea that actually the more people using it, the better that is. Like, there's a reason that we've fallen in love with that term, is because we believe that's good for people. It's what we all need. And so you can, I guess, surrender the egoic aspect to this collective. It's good for everybody. I don't know.
Did I speak to you about Maya Luna and the Mythical Masculine podcast episode she was on?
No.
Oh, was somebody else then. So she pointed out something that really rang true for me. She said, in the society, in the culture that we live in today, I actually don't know. I don't have the trust that I will be cared for,
Hmm.
that we will thrive or die together. I don't know that because we have a society where it is each to his own and, fend for yourself and with various degree of social security systems, this, that, and the other thing. But still, there's this general knowing, I would say, a cultural knowing that I have to take care of myself because nobody else is gonna. And she says that hoarding is a symptom of this. It is a symptom of this distrust, of this not knowing that I can lean on my neighbors and on you and on, that in times of need, we will take care of each other. And that just blew my mind because you pinpointed something that I hadn't been able to figure out before. Because if you look at other cultures, and it's not easy to find another culture than the one of modern man today. They exist, but really, really, really not a lot of them remain. It used to be that those were the cultures, and in those, call them indigenous cultures or whatever you want, but the trust is there. This trust that I will be cared for because I will care for you when you need it. And I know somebody else will care for me when I need it because that's how we live. We thrive or we die together. So that trust is there. So the notion of having to hoard, of having to hold on to, of having to grab those 10 hams and say, mine, 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 mine. That's just plain dumb because there's no
Hmm.
way I'll be able to eat them before they go bad. Share it so that we can use it while they're still viable to be used.
Mm.
Um, and when she says that, this hoarding tendency is like this symptom of a sick culture, of a culture lacking in trust. It kind of breaks my heart. Um, and I can see in myself those tendencies.
Yeah.
And I can feel that it is a lack of trust that is
Hmm.
at the root of them. That is why. Well, grab
Absolutely.
this and put it here and grab
Yeah.
this and put it here, whether that be in the freezer or in the pantry or in my bank account or, grab it, hold on to it because I never know if I
Yeah.
will get a chance to have this thing and I might need it because I have to fend for myself. And it's like, that's a weird fucking culture.
It's really, really weird, isn't it? Yeah. And I'm this, you can feel that tension within yourself and you can see that tension, if that sort of hoarding behavior and greedy behavior is done in such a way, or it's on display in the media or whatever, and you see people's reactions are very much how selfish, like, I can't believe someone would do that. And yet there's a hypocrisy to the way that we then behave because we're like, well, if there are people like that, then I better,
Do the same.
like, I can't trust people because I'm seeing that sort of behavior. And that's what you saw that with kind of panic buying at the start of the pandemic, everybody, I
Toilet
don't know if
paper and
the same in
pasta.
Sweden. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
And everybody sort of rationalizes it through this. Well, if everybody's doing that, then I'll have to do that for myself so that I can, I need to be able to eat and wipe my ass and whatever. And yeah, you just see that sort of, even though you'd speak to individuals, and on the whole, people would be like, yeah, it's awful, isn't it? Like, I can't believe people are so selfish. And actually, and we almost dissociate ourselves from that. But it's like, no, I've done the same thing. And that tension is there. There's that contradiction between what we know, what we feel about how we're supposed to, operate together, like that togetherness, and then what we are taught and conditioned to believe through the way that we've structured and systemized society to, I guess, put the personal responsibility and the personal choice of the individual at the forefront of everything, to the point where that's the only thing that matters.
And
And
to
yeah,
the
what if
degree,
you
like
could?
you say, to the degree that we don't even see it,
Yes.
actually, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
not me. Yeah, you.
It's always looking at other. I can't believe they've done that. It's like, yeah, you've done this. I've done the same thing. Like, we're all part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, if you could just imagine a cult, and I'm sure there are certainly communities and neighborhoods and things where that sort of behavior is if there is that person that hoards everything to them, like that everything flows to them and then the flow stops. Like, that is an anomaly within a certain community or culture or society. And then that's a really weird way of behaving. And actually, if you can kind of normalize togetherness, normalize, like, make the selfish behavior the weird thing. I don't know.
And we can, because it's
That's
culture.
the horse bolted. Yeah.
It is culture. It isn't natural law.
No, exactly.
It is culture. It is created. It is maintained. It can be changed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like one of the, talked about Todd McGowan's Capitalism and Desire. Paraphrasing here, but he spends a lot of time exploring the idea that, economists would talk about capitalism as being a kind of collective reflection of human nature. And he's like, that's just over and over proven not to be true. And actually, like, human nature morphs, or the way that we behave will be a reflection of capitalism, as opposed to capitalism being a natural outpouring of human nature. Yeah.
I don't remember the podcast, but I was listening to, probably a month ago, a podcast where somebody was speaking to Johann, who has written about lost connections and depression and drug abuse and this and that. And I've read and listened to him before and really liked what I've heard, but this one was different because I got a broadened sense of what it actually is that Johann is trying to point at, what it is that really lures him to find out more about. And he was speaking about a poor neighborhood, I think, in Berlin. Might not have been Berlin, some German town. And it was, the projects, you can say, that type of apartment houses, worn down, filled with people of depression and drug abuse and the outcasts of various kinds, and I think there was a rent rise coming. And one of these people living there was I think, Turkish lady who'd lost her husband and kids and I don't know what, and she was in a wheelchair and she was depressed and she knew that if these rents go through, I won't be able to make it. So she actually put a post in her window saying, come, you know, in 2 weeks' time when the rent, whatever it is, that date, I'll kill myself. Just put the notice there. And the way that, again, the way that we live, the culture we live in, we don't thrive or die together. We thrive or die alone. So nobody really knew her. Nobody had, they weren't helping each other. This group of disparate, refugees and, whatnot. But that sign sparked a collective coming together. So kind of letting go of this notion that I'm the only one suffering and I have to bear it on my own and if I can't fend for myself, then I'll die.
Yeah.
Letting go of that and coming together. He tells the story of how people came together and how they actually then started to oppose this rent rise and how they actually managed to stop it. And through that, they came to love one another. It makes, chills. Because all of a sudden they were a collective. All of a sudden they were a group, a community in communion with one another, knowing that if you fare ill, it hurts me. So whatever I have, I will share it with you so that we can thrive or die together. And it's just it's such a inspiring, hope-inducing, and fucking horrible story all at once.
Yeah.
It makes me want to cry for so many reasons. Not just because, yay, humanity prevailed and kindness and gentleness and togetherness, but also the fact that it is like this, I don't have to look around me much for, it's like, this is how we have it, how we live, how the culture kind of enforces in us to do. But we can break it.
That's really so powerful. Yeah. What's so beautiful about that is the fact that the movement starts before a tragedy. Like it, because so we often, we have those moments in response to things, don't we? Like we come together after the event, after the person's killed themselves, after
the fire, after the
exactly
earthquake, yeah.
And like to have that bravery and that vulnerability and maybe that desperation. I mean, it's clearly desperation to be honest about this is where I'm at. Like that does so many things, not least probably people will read that and think me too. And actually like there's a togetherness in the suffering. There's a togetherness, not just in we can help one another, but we're all feeling this, are we? Okay, we're not all isolated, because that's often the thing that we're encouraged to feel is I'm the only one feeling this. I'm the only one feeling like everybody else is clambering up and hoarding everything.
Got it together. Yeah.
Got it together. And then to realize, okay, it's not too late to do something. What are we gonna do? And we can't do it. This is not a matter of personal choice in how I respond to this situation. This is a moment for all of us, and that is not just for this moment. That's going to be the spark for whatever comes after we've fought this. and the rent rise is prevented. So actually, there's something profoundly talking about the idea of strength is the theme in my Haven community this month, and so I've been kind of thinking about strength in the context of integrity, and the idea of strength of character coming hand in hand with like the integrity of someone. It's like comes to the fore when you're under strain. How do you react when you're facing sort of adversity and that kind of thing? That's where you see someone's strength of character, but also strength as integrity and integration. So strength being the byproduct of a thing's parts working together, not working against one another. And this kind of speaks to what we're talking about in terms of that societal or capitalist value of individuals working for themselves, fighting for their own survival, each to their own. And actually that's a fragile, weak way to be organized, and strength of a society comes when we realize we're just one part of a body that like a kind of brought up in the church, and kind of always talked about the kind of the body of the church, and like the different parts of the body work together to create this whole. And I think this is an image that works really well within society itself. Like this sense that if we're all fighting to be the head or the eye or the whatever, then you've got there is no strength, there is no body, there's no integrity, there's no structure. But if we kind of come to that understanding that we're all part of this body, and we all need one another to work coherently together, cohesively together. Yeah. Something.
And it fragile is the one, and then there's robust, or able to withstand a blow.
Yeah.
And then there's the anti-fragile, which actually is strengthened by the blow.
Yeah.
It's like, so even in that, I think, is the body itself.
Mm-hmm.
Bone structure is one of those things where your bones will be brittle if you do not have pouncing on them. They need the jolt to get stronger.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect example of an anti-fragile system.
That's really true. Yeah.
And again, that's kind of what this gift economy, these collectives or communities where trust is there, man, are they anti-fragile, right? Because here's this thing, this pre-tragedy that just, whoa, really made them thrive. Not in okay, we'll pool our money together and maybe we can manage to pay her rent. That would maybe have been the robust way of, okay, we can make it work, but we will still not be like not really gaining any generative values from it, which is this the blossoming of the community of like this thriving together.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah, it's changing the DNA of the structure itself, isn't it? It's like because again, when you come at things after the tragedy, after the moment, it's often that response of that we need to raise money for the family of this person, or we need to raise money for this community, and then things don't really change. You don't it doesn't ensure that actually we're going to change things so structurally that this makes this like if you can't make it impossible to happen again because it's a situation maybe within the context of like natural disasters or things like that, which you can't actually stop, you can ensure that the suffering that comes from the way we've organized ourselves can't happen again. Like the things that we do have control over, like that's what we can change.
Yeah. There's one of the kind of the side stories of this housing situation was that there was somebody in that gang who I think was homeless, but who kind of came and helped and stuff. And so they had this community room, or like where they organized the resistance and and this homeless man was kind of invited by them to, if you could stay here, that would actually be good, because then we know that nobody will come and like padlock the door so we can't get access. It's like, and then a year passes or something, and it's, things are shifting and communities blossoming. This man is caught by the police because there's an outstanding warrant on him for some reason that I don't now remember. Turns out this is a man who has been in the psychiatric system for years on end, And then I guess in Germany, the same as in Sweden, a couple of decades ago, they kind of said, no, we don't want to keep the loonies locked in. We'll just release them and, they can fend for themselves. He was one of those. He was let out. And when the police grabbed him and he, this community just, woof, it's like, you can't do that to him. He belongs with us. He's a part of us. It's like, what's going on here? Turns out one of the, I think I'm probably like butchering the story, so everybody needs to listen to this podcast on their own. But a psychiatrist who had been at this psychiatric hospital ward, wherever he'd been, met this man and saw that he's actually, he is living a good life here. And he's like, this gang of people just asking for him, obviously showing their love and appreciation for him. He said he'd been locked up for 20, 30 years. Nobody had ever come visited him. Nobody had ever asked for him. Nobody knew his name. Nobody knew him. And here, just again, it makes the hair stand on my arms, because he's like, that's the power that we can do. We can see each other. We can honor each other. We can appreciate each other. And there is, I desperately want to believe, so I do. My naive me says there is a place for all of us. There is that community for all of us where we are seen and appreciated for who we are. Doesn't matter if we do anything, but just the being that I am is appreciated because of who I am.
Absolutely.
It's like, yeah, it's like, so kind of going full circle, getting back to the trademarking thing. It's like,
Oh yeah.
right now, I probably, this is probably really, really dumb, speaking about this, because somebody will go out and trademark Tankespjärn, and then I'm, what then?
Yeah, I'll be right on there after this conversation.
Precisely.
Expect
Right?
your
But it's
cease
like,
and desist letter tomorrow.
it is like this, it's like, I don't want to. I really don't want to. Because because it is that hoarding aspect of it, or at least the fear of the hoarding aspect. It's like, ugh.
Yeah. I suppose the question would be, what might the implications of not doing so be if somebody was to to do that,
it.
how would you respond? What impact would it have on you and on your business and everything like that? And just kind of weigh those things up, I suppose. Because one of the things I really loved about Sarah's response was that decision. Am I going to fight? Because, I mean, and I'd spoken to her, and it was like, I think if you fought it, I think you'd have a very valid case in many respects. But she decided, no, I'm going to, turn that energy into something positive. And that's something that really, really inspired me, because it's like, yeah, actually, no, you do get to. Choosing not to fight is not a passive. It's not a passive laying down and rolling over and allowing somebody to walk all over you. Like, you can fight, but choosing not to might actually be that's the strong thing to do, because it's like, no, I'm going to invite the positive, generative, creative energy to take me into this, let come moment, what's going to be coming instead. And I actually think in Sarah's case, it's like actually something stronger has emerged from that situation. And it's, we talked in our conversation with Sarah about, the platitudes within that moment, within the dark night of the soul, when it's like, well, good things will come out of the darkness, everything,
there's a silver lining.
Exactly, the silver lining stuff. It's like, within that moment, you don't want to think about that. It's not good to be told that, because it's just, that just feels infuriating. But even though there is a truth in that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of grappling with the same thing, and like, what would be the implications? Would I be happy, like, to just do whatever was necessary?
To
in
be
response
allowed to keep at it.
And again, it was like we were talking about the idea that the content is stronger than the container, and so everything, just because the term has changed for her, doesn't change anything about what it all means. So there's like the symbolic aspect of gentle marketing, but actually humane marketing means exactly the same thing. So you don't have to move away and reinvent the wheel of your message. Like, and if you can, I guess it's similar to that, the strength thing, like the bone, maybe that's just a knock on the bone.
Yeah.
You sort of, I was thinking about like trees, and tension wood is the same kind of idea that, tension wood is created because of the storms, because the wind that hits the tree.
And it makes them resilient. It makes them stronger. It makes them more and more anti-fragile.
Yeah. And that's it. So, yeah.
Conundrum. Something to keep pondering.
How will you know what the right answer is for you?
Good question. And I'm not sure I will know. It's like, I don't remember who it is. There's somebody who has done a PhD on decision making, if it's from the financial world. I know my friend Jan Bolmeson speaks about this a lot. Is you shouldn't judge a decision based on the outcome. You only can judge a decision based on what it is that you know at the time that you're making the decision. Because it might be the right decision, even though it's a horrible outcome. It might be that it's the wrong decision, but it's a perfect outcome. So decisions are often, in hindsight, viewed or judged as being right or wrong. But that's actually, like, no, because you don't know that when you're making the decision. That's the whole point. It's like, based on what I know, I'll make a decision. And kind of standing that and again, like we say, the whole body of me, if all of me is there, is this a yes or is it a no?
Mm.
Or am I saying yes, but I'm a no? Or the other way around. So I think it comes down to that, to listening for the yes or the no in me, and kind of going with that, regardless of what happens then down the line. And, it might be somebody listens to this and says, oh, how interesting. I will trademark Tankespjärn and make sure that nobody can ever do that.
That'd be useful. Wouldn't that be great?
Right? So that's like a gift economy aspect of it. It's like, okay, maybe she won't do it, but if I do it and make sure that nobody can ever send a cease and desist because I won't.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, could that happen? Well, I don't know.
That's
but
great.
it's more fun to think of it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny that we, like, for me, I've just been thinking about it in that very narrow-minded, it's something I have to do or not, I choose to do or not do. And actually, yeah, that's great. That's in keeping with everything we've been talking about. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
It's a little bit like the hams, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'll pass it forward by doing this thing. Yeah. That is interesting because that makes me go, what if we start to use the system that way?
Yeah. Protect other people.
Protect other people and allow everybody to use. Everybody can use Tankespjärn. That's the whole fucking point of it for me. Right? But nobody, then you kind of disarm the possibility to weaponize the system.
That's very subversive. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of the kind of the common sense thinking would be, I'll trademark that so I can sell them that in the same way that people like buy up URLs. It's like you have no intention of using that, but you know that somebody might do at some point, and then you can make thousands and thousands of dollars from it. Yeah. But actually to subvert that logic, I love it.
That's a kind of a gentle rebel thing, isn't it?
Definitely. Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. Maybe that's a perfect place to end this.
It feels
session.
like it. Yeah.
Subversive, gentle rebelness out providing Tankespjärn to people.
Nice.
It is nice, isn't it? Well, see you around.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a pleasure, as always.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is a gift. For me, this is a gift. To get to spend time with people whom I value, whose company I enjoy. Not knowing what will happen, where it will go. Ooh, there's that element of the unknown thrown in that I just love.
Absolutely. I like that. The receiving of a gift that is not necessarily intended as a gift, or is not given in a tangible sense. To engage with the world as like, I'm receiving that as a gift, and I'm going to engage with it as a gift. Yeah. Nice.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you.